I spent most of my early 20s living out of my car, or so it felt. I worked part-time for an imported car company that specialized in street racing showcases and mod exhibitions. They held shows all over the South: Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky. If you could drive there, I had probably hauled a tricked-out Skyline or souped-up RX-7 to it. The money wasn't much, but for a young adrenaline junkie, the travel and freedom were all I needed. I got used to the roads, the cracked, lonely highways and the winding back roads that looked like they hadn't been paved since the Eisenhower administration. But there was one drive that changed everything. It was a long trip, Florida to Kentucky and back. I don't remember what city the show was in that time. I just remember the return journey. I was on the road for nearly 16 hours straight, riding a mix of caffeine, nicotine, and whatever sheer willpower hadn't been drained by the southern heat. What happened during that drive still sticks to me like the smell of old engine oil. I've told the full story to maybe 3 people, but it happened. All of it. I even kept a box of matches for years afterward, just to prove to myself that it wasn't some highway delusion. It all started around 1 a.m. I was just north of Atlanta, cruising down the interstate when my GPS pinged. The voice, bright and chipper as always, told me to take an exit that I almost missed. It was sharp, sudden, and completely unmarked. I remember glancing at the screen in disbelief. It said this route would shave off an hour of my trip. I should have known better. Never trusted GPS at 1 a.m. in the deep South. But I was exhausted, and the thought of getting home sooner was too tempting, so I took the exit. The ramp fed into a narrow, 2-lane road lined with towering trees and old farmland that seemed to stretch forever, the kind of place where cell phone signals go to die. I drove for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, half listening to a static-filled radio station when I noticed headlights in my rearview mirror. They were too close. Way too close. A car had crept up behind me, riding my bumper like I owed it money. At first, I thought maybe I'd cut someone off, or maybe they were just some drunk idiots out joyriding. But as they began flashing their brights, once, twice, then rapidly, I started to get nervous. I slowed down, hoping they'd pass. They didn't. Instead, they stayed glued to me for the next 15 minutes. I looked for places to pull over, nothing but ditches and barbed wire fences. The road was isolated, no houses, no side streets. Finally, I saw them speed up as if they were going to pass. I braced myself, even moved slightly toward the shoulder, expecting the roar of an engine and the whoosh of a car zipping by. Nothing. I looked over my shoulder. No one was there. Just the empty road behind me, dark and endless. I slammed the brakes, thinking maybe they had turned off and I hadn't noticed. But there was no turn off. No tire tracks, no dust. Just gone. My stomach dropped. I felt cold even though the AC wasn't on. Something felt wrong, fundamentally wrong. I checked the GPS again. Still said I was on course, but when I finally reconnected to the interstate, the highway sign said I was back at the exact same exit I'd taken 30 minutes ago. Same ramp, same weird angle. I hadn't made a loop. The road was straight. I had been driving for half an hour. I told myself I must have missed a turn somewhere, even though deep down I knew I hadn't. There was no logical explanation. Just 30 minutes gone, stolen by a road that led to nowhere and brought me right back to where I started. But the night wasn't over. It was past 3 a.m. now. I was close to home, 2, maybe 3 hours away. I decided to take a local shortcut off the interstate that I'd used a dozen times before. It connected 2 sleepy little cities and cut through farm country before rejoining the highway near my town. Familiar, comfortable. I was starving, my eyes heavy. I figured a cigarette would keep me awake for the last stretch. But when I grabbed my lighter, it sparked once and died. Dead. No fire. I reached over to toss the cigarette back in the pack when I saw a glow up ahead. A gas station. A run-down, poorly lit place on the corner of a T-junction. It looked like something out of a forgotten decade. One flickering overhead light, dusty old pumps, a cracked Coke machine out front that probably was there since the Reagan administration. But I didn't care. I needed caffeine and fire. I pulled in, filled the tank, and scanned the inside of the store. There were two people. An old woman behind the counter, wearing a faded muumuu, and a heavy-set man in overalls standing in one of the aisles. They were facing each other, but not talking, not moving, just still, like mannequins. I hesitated. The air smelled strange, old, like mildew and mothballs. I stepped in, the bell over the door letting out a weak ding. The woman turned her head slowly toward me, her eyes narrow, studying me like I was an exhibit. "Hey, y'all have any lighters?" She blinked. "Lighters?" "Yeah, for cigarettes." Her mouth twitched. "I have matches." Before I could answer, she reached below the counter and handed me a small box of red-tipped matches. No price, no barcode. She didn't ask for money. I offered cash anyway, but she waved me off like I was being silly. I thanked her and turned to leave, but caught a glimpse of the man again. He hadn't moved, still standing there, staring right at me. His chest didn't rise or fall. I couldn't even tell if he was breathing. I felt eyes boring into me, like prey, like something smaller than it ought to be. My gut twisted, the kind of fear that makes your body scream, "Run!" even when your brain hasn't caught up. I power walked to the car, slid in, turned the key. The exact second the engine roared to life, every single light, inside, outside, even the damn vending machine, went out. Pitch black. No glow from the store, no humming lights at the pumps, nothing but the beams from my car slicing through the dark. I slammed it into drive and peeled out, tires screeching. I didn't look back. I couldn't.
I checked that box of matches the entire way home like it was a sacred relic, needing the confirmation that the place existed, that it hadn't been a dream. But I never found that gas station again. Not once. I drove that route a dozen times after, every twist and turn memorized, but the station? Gone, like it had never been there. But the night still had one last card to play. I was maybe 45 minutes from the Florida line, less than an hour from home. My brain was fogged up from lack of sleep and the surreal madness of the night. I kept telling myself I was imagining things, just hallucinating from fatigue. Then came the blue lights. I saw them in the rearview mirror, rotating blue strobes, not like the crisp LED light bars cops use now. No, these were the old-school gumball lights, the kind that spin and pulse like something from a 1980s highway patrol movie. I pulled over instinctively, but something in my gut stopped me. Something wasn't right. My dad was a cop for over 25 years. I knew the look of a patrol car. I knew procedure, and I knew, without a doubt, that no department around here still used those lights. I grabbed my phone and called my friend. He was a sheriff's deputy a couple counties over, someone I trusted. It was late, but he picked up, groggy but alert once I told him what was going on. "Dude, I said, my voice shaking. "There's an old cop car following me. Like, really old, blue spinning lights. You ever heard of any departments still using those?" He was silent for a second. Then, "No one's used those in years. Not anywhere around here." "What should I do?" "Stay on the phone with me. Don't stop. Drive until you hit a public spot. Somewhere lit, somewhere safe." And so I did. For 30 minutes I drove, the blue lights trailing behind me like a ghost. I couldn't see the car clearly. It kept just enough distance, far enough that I couldn't make out the make or model, but close enough to keep the pressure on. Finally, I reached the intersection where the county road met the highway. A gas station sat on the corner, bright, familiar, one I'd stopped at hundreds of times. I pulled in, heart hammering. The moment I entered the lot, the blue lights blinked out. The car sped off into the night before I could even register its shape. No license plate, no markings, gone. Inside, the gas station was warm, well lit, stocked with snacks and a sleepy-looking clerk who greeted me with a soft smile. It felt like stepping back into the real world after wandering through some warped parallel place. I bought a Red Bull and a pack of smokes. The lighter I used to spark that cigarette felt like a holy relic. I got home just after dawn. I locked every door and window, twice, maybe 3 times. I never took that shortcut again. A few months later, I quit traveling with the car show altogether. Too many hours on lonely roads. Too many stories like this. To this day, I never drive alone on unfamiliar roads at night. And no matter what the GPS tells me, I stay on the interstates. I married that sheriff's deputy a couple years later. He remembers that night too. We don't talk about it often. Once was enough. But I still have that box of matches. Some nights when I can't sleep, I hold it in my hand just to feel the weight of it. Cheap cardboard, red tips, and the undeniable proof that for one night, the rules of time and place didn't apply. And whatever was out there, watching, it knew I was alone.